Hey guys, what's up? This is Jeff. Today we're going to be starting a series within our series of how to play the game focused on space creation and control. And to start it off, we're going to be talking about applying pressure. And when you apply pressure to generate space, what you're looking to do is either restrict movement or encourage a very specific type of movement as a result of that pressure. And that will give you space somewhere else. So we're not applying pressure to the space that we want. We're applying pressure to the space that forces a specific reaction out of the opposing team that enables us to take space in a different area. We've got examples from Overwatch, um, Valorant, and StarCraft 2 today. There are plenty of others. If I had more time, I could search up near endless examples. But this is enough to show how broad of a topic it is. Um, it happens so fast in Dota that it's difficult to see, and same for StarCraft. I just happen to watch a lot of StarCraft very religiously, so I can remember a game where it occurred. Um, but yeah, so let's get right into it. So what's the situation here, right? We've got Seoul Dynasty in the grand finals against San Francisco Shock. Seoul's looking to bring it back. They're attacking Hanamura. Point A, this is a map that doesn't exist. This is a game that doesn't exist. These are teams that don't exist anymore. But the point remains the same, right? The idea remains the same. They want to capture this objective that we're looking at here. So let's get at this view to help us understand the situation better, right? The um, the attacking team, Seoul Dynasty in the blue, they want the objective. So they've got two players applying pressure. They've got the Roadhog and they've got the Widowmaker. And they're applying pressure to areas of the map that they don't want or care about. But it is doing something specific to San Francisco Shock. And rather than talk about it, let's just get into this. Let's just watch it. It's going to be muted so that we don't have the casters or anything to interrupt us. But as you can see here, that shot right there, it's a split second. You can see the Widowmaker, right? The Widowmaker has sightlines on the spawn. Narrowly misses this shot. This is the tracer from the Widowmaker's shot right here on the screen, right? This has forced three of the players into this tiny little cubby underneath here. Now, they're going to reapply pressure because Gesture, Roadhog, died, is walking back from spawn. They've got the space inside of the point A, and that allows him to rotate more easily into this other space, right? So it's this constant leapfrog effect with pressure as well, right? First they apply pressure to get purchase into the through the choke point into the zone, then they apply pressure to set their Widowmaker up, then they apply pressure to set Gesture up. It just continuously cycles, right? So they're constantly looking for this space, and he's gonna flank around. Now he's the one applying pressure. It's no longer the Widowmaker. A lot of this comes from super dying and the immediate rotation. Now the Widowmaker is able to push up and get a much better sight line onto this doorway. So the idea is still to control this access to point. That's the space that the Widowmaker is trying to restrict. But look at where Gesture's at. He's up here. He's also restricting that access to point, right? It's dangerous to all stand on the objective. That's a good way to get killed in this game and in a lot of games, to be fair. You don't want to necessarily show yourself outside of protected areas. But in the event that the enemy team does get the capturable point, you have to go and touch it to stop them from capturing it in Overwatch. So by controlling the access to the point, what they've done is they've forced them in this really bad position where they have to use these abilities to gain an opportunity to even fight back. They use ultimates and everything, and ultimately, just from the pressure and the space control that Seoul Dynasty was able to put out, they win the fight off of a grand total of 2 kills and the fact that they no longer had the ultimates to hold it. And so they just jumped off the map to avoid feeding ult charge, and we're like, well, we're going to have to go next, right? That's just the value of the positioning. that they were able to find. Here in this other example, we got Atlanta Rain versus Los Angeles Gladiators. LH Cloudy, famous for doing funny things on the Reinhardt.
He'll just eventually die.
And what we're going to see here is we're going to see him create space in an unorthodox method. One of the ways that you often think about tanks creating space in Overwatch is to walk at the enemy team. He doesn't do that. He lets it known that he's up here. He's not hiding the fact that they don't do anything about it is kind of mind-boggling, but he is applying pressure to this backline. And because of that, he's created space, again, on the objective for his team to work off of. So by going somewhere else in an area that he can't be ignored and making his presence known, now see, look, these two players, they can't play the objective. They have to back up. They have to get away, because if they try and play the objective, he'll kill them. But if they don't play the objective, then now it's just going to get pushed through. And that's all of that because of the flank. Not even because of the kills, but just because of the position that he put himself in the space that he took with that position and the pressure that it applied to the enemy team. Here's a Valorant
The
example. Phoenix
coming at you.
Ooh, goodness. I think Mr. X casts all three of these examples. So we're looking at Paper X versus EG. This is another finals. These guys matched up in the finals. This is another top tier game. But we're not actually looking at Paper Rex. We're looking at the way that EG re-entries this site. So the way that the space is taken here, right? Something's out on the site. He's in space that they don't really care about. They're able to come and swing into this back site. They're able to come get some purchase in the objective. That's all well and good, right? But this is all, it's a moot point at the moment. What we're going to pay attention to, and we're going to see, is the way that Demon 1 re-entries this site to create space for the rest of his team. So you get the Yoru TP in here. You get the two players swinging out of the defense control area. But what you've really got is Demon 1 jumping up on top of that box inside of his smoke and controlling nothing of value. But it applies pressure. It forces them to look at something. And as far as a re-entry into the site, it's a beautiful way to create that space. It doesn't matter that he's on top of the box, but if you ignore him, he jumps out and gets a kill. But if you don't ignore him, right, then you're looking at something that's not the actual threat. The actual threat is the other 2-3 players coming into the site. It's not Demon 1 on top of the box. But if you disrespect him jumping on top of the box, he can just pop out and grab the free kills. StarCraft 2. I wish I could have found an example of a Warp Prism or a Medevac just parked behind an enemy base and that the enemy knows about but can't really go kill. It happens a lot in these games with Ravens. But what I found instead was an absolute banger of a game from an absolute banger of a series. Sorry to spoil so much of it for you. The series is so good, though. It's worth rewatching again. I watched like half of it just to get this video. Where Maru and Dark are duking it out here, and Maru is applying pressure to two sides of the map because what he's looking for is damage. StarCraft is a very different game. It's not as objective focused. The objective is to kill the enemy buildings, right? That's the objective. And so he needs to do that. But it doesn't really matter where you do it because you have to kill them all anyways. So the idea in StarCraft is that you can split push and you apply pressure to two different areas, and whichever one the enemy defends more heavily is the one that plays more passively, and the other one is the one that plays more aggressively because they create space for each other. You just don't necessarily know which one is going to create the space, so you have to be back and forth between them both as best you can. So Maru is dropping on the south side of the map. He's applying pressure down there. Let me see if I can. He's applying pressure down here. And he's also parade pushing the north side of the map and applying pressure up here. And this is the stronger side. This is the heavier threat. This is the bigger attack. And so you can see all these little red dots moving north to try and deal with this. But Darkness says, okay, well, let me try and take out this drop in the bottom. He commits pretty heavily towards this. He puts a lot of resources towards it. And now you see the stream back up at the top. He can't. It's hard to do both defensively, doing both offensively and defensively. It's really challenging. In fact, this is one of the reasons Koreans were so good for so long compared to the rest of the StarCraft 2 community, is their ability to split the armies back and forth. But the pressure here is roughly equal at this point. He's putting it on both sides, and he's going to find damage on one of these eventually, as long as he doesn't just completely throw away his units. But he can continue to push and pull each side based on where his enemy is strong and where he wants to move forward, right? Um, and it's just that idea of creating space for something else. He doesn't want necessarily this area. He doesn't want necessarily that area. He's fine with either one. But by applying pressure up here, he's drawing units up here. Creates space at the bottom of the map. And he applies pressure at the bottom map. It draws units down there that creates space at the top of the map. And it forces his opponent to split really well. Because if his opponent messes up the split and he's able to win on one of the fronts, the space has been effectively created, right? It's the same idea like in Valorant, where you might show 2 people on each side of the map, and the enemy team rotates 3 people to that side of the map where they first saw the 2 people. Well, now you've got a 2v1 on the other side of the map. You've created pressure on one side, even if it's not stronger or weaker, and that allowed you to gain space on the other side. You just need to be ready to be flexible in that situation. That's the comparison to an additional game. And in Dota, maybe your mid is in the enemy team's jungle and it forces them to back off the mid lane, and that allows one of your supports to come and farm the mid lane for free so that they can gain levels and experience. Or maybe it forces their position 3 to play more passively so that your carry can get more aggressive laning position. Or maybe your carry's playing aggressively so that your mid laner can rotate out more freely and your carry draws the attention. There's a lot of layers to this in a lot of different games, and this is honestly just the start. So next we're going to talk about, okay, now I'm getting this space. What do I do with it? How do I control it? And that deeper dive into the strong side, weak side, and all of that. But for now, we just wanted to focus on, this is how you apply pressure to the enemy team. This is how you get them to react. This is how you draw them from one side to the next. This is what's actually happening on the map. CSGO is another great example. You'll see people in Inferno all the time, because you can use one player to sell all of the Inferno B-site attack utility. They can throw all of the flashes, smokes, and mollies by themselves. Because you need, I think it's 2 flashes, 1 molly, and a smoke. And they can do that from a very safe position in Banana on the B site while you're 4-man hitting A shortly after. So what you do is you throw all that utility, you'll count to 4 or 5, and then you'll flood the A side as fast as possible, hoping to hit them while they're still rotating players before they get the information about whether or not the execute is real. So yeah, that's another example. But hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully as we build on it, it'll grow even more helpful. And thank you for showing up, watching these. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more so that you don't miss any of them. And I'll see you next time.